Everyone, today we're going to be working on Unit 2 LT5 notes, multiplying binomials. So we're going to be using the box method to multiply these binomials. So when we're multiplying them, it's, for example, if we had x plus 3 and we're multiplying it by x minus 3. Okay, so step one, you're going to draw a box. So I'm just going to put a box in. Okay, and within the box, for this problem, I just need 4 squares. Okay, and then you're going to write one binomial on the top. So my first binomial, that x plus 3, I'm just going to put this here, x and 3. And I don't have to write that plus 3 because I can assume if there's no plus in front of it, it's positive. Then we're going to write this next one, this x minus 3 on the side. Okay, we have to have that negative 3 because it's a negative number. If we don't have that there, it would be a positive 3, and that's not true because it's negative. Okay, and then I'll show you how to do the rest of that when we get on to the other slides. Then you're going to multiply the terms into the box, combine the like terms, and then you're going to write it in standard form. The directions say to simplify the following expression. So I'm going to start, just like the directions said in the slide before, with a box. So I'm going to start drawing a box, and in that box I'm going to make those 4 squares. Okay, then I'm going to take this first set in parentheses and just write it right above. So I have x, and because of this minus 1, that's really a negative 1. So I'm going to put that negative 1 on there, right there. Okay, now I'm going to look at the second set, and it's going to be an x, and then because it's a minus 4, it's really a negative 4. Okay, and now I'm going to multiply within the box. Okay, and I kind of do that diagonally. So the first step I'm going to take is I'm going to have my x on the side, and I'm going to multiply it by my x on the top. So x times x, remember both of those x's have these little ones on them. And when we multiply our exponents, we're actually adding them. So that just gives me x squared because I have 2 of them. Okay, the next step is I'm going to do that negative 1. So I'm going to take this negative 1 and then multiply it by that x that I originally did. So the 2 that meet in that box. Okay, so negative 1 times x will give me a negative 1x. So I'm going to put that right there. Okay, now that I have that top filled, I'm going to work on the bottom. So I'm trying to fill that, let me highlight it here so you can see it. I'm trying to fill this box right here. And in order to fill that box, I'm going to use the number on the top or the letter on the top and the number that would be on the side of that box. So I have negative 4 times x to the first. Well, in front of that x to the first is a 1. So negative 4 times 1 still gives me a negative 4. So I'm going to first put my negative 4, and then I only have just that one x. The negative 4 does not have an x or anything with it. So I'm just going to write that original x that was on top. Okay, and then my final step is to take this negative 1 on top and this negative 4 on the side, and those two will create what goes in this box right here. Okay, so if I have negative 1 multiplied by a negative 4. Well, a negative and a negative, I know, turn into a positive. So a negative and a negative are going to be a positive, so I'm just going to take that 4 times that 1, and I get 4. Okay, so this word simplify means I'm not quite done yet. To simplify it, I need it in order from highest power to lowest power, and I'm going to combine any like terms. Okay, so when I look at my highest power, my x squared is my highest, okay? And then I have a negative 4x and a negative 1x, and those two are in this middle section right here. And then, because that 4 doesn't have anything with it, I know it's a positive 4, so I'm going to say plus 4. So I'm not done because I can still see that I have a negative 4x and a negative 1x, and I can combine those. So my x squared stays x squared. Negative 4 minus 1 is going to give me a negative 5, and those x's stay the same. And then that positive 4 I can't do anything else with, so I'm just going to write that positive 4, and this is going to be your final answer. Okay, let's do the same thing with number 2. First, we're going to start out with a box. And then we're gonna write the top and the side. Okay, so I have x, it's a positive 2. I don't have to write that plus, I'm just gonna write 2. And then the x on the other side, and I don't have to write that plus 5, I can just write a 5 because I can assume they're positive. Okay, so now I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna take, I want this box right here, and to get that box, I'm gonna multiply this x times this x. And if you remember, they both have a little tiny one right there, okay? So x times x will give me x squared. Okay, then I'm gonna do my next one, and I want this box right here, okay? And I'm gonna multiply this 2 times this x, okay? So 2 times x, I'm actually gonna, can I erase that? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna get that one back in there. So otherwise it might look like there's a 1 there. Okay, so I'm taking that 2 times that x. Remember, there's a 1 in front of that x. So 2 times 1 is still a 2. And then I only just have that 1x. So I'm just gonna write that x in there to represent it. Okay, now I'm gonna do this top. So I want, dang, I keep doing that. So I want this box right here. And to get that box, I'm gonna multiply what's on the top and what's on the side of that box, okay? So 5 times that imaginary 1 in front of the x is just gonna give me a 5. So I'm gonna re-put my 5 in there, okay? And then I only have just that 1x, so I'm just gonna bring that 1x down. There's nothing I can multiply it with. Finally, I'm gonna take, I want what's on either side of this one right here, okay? So I see a 2 on top, and I see a 5 on the side. So 2 times 5 is 10, and because it's positive, it's just gonna be a 10. It's not a negative 10 because they're both positive, okay? Now I'm gonna write in order from greatest to least. So my x squared is my greatest, and then these two go in the middle, and they're both positive. So plus 5x, plus 2x, and then plus 10, okay? This 5x and 2x, because they both have the x on it with the same power, I can combine those. So this x squared comes down. 5 plus 2 is 7x plus 10. And that's your final answer. It says x minus 1. Oops. Let's try another one with starting with our box. Okay, so I'm going to take this first set, x, 1, and then this next one, so that one has a 2x and a 1, and it's all positive, so I don't have to show any of those negatives. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to start at the top left box, and that is represented by this, by the 2 and the x. And those x's, remember, have those little ones on them. And really, there's an imaginary 1 in front of that x, okay? So I'm going to take this 2 times that 1. 2 times 1 is 2. And then x times x is going to give me x squared. Now I want this 1, well, I want this box right here. And to find that box, it's going to be that 1 multiplied by that right there, okay? So 1 times 2 gives me a 2, and then I only have just that 1x. I'm not multiplying anything with it because there's no x's to multiply right here, so that's just going to be an x. And we find our bottom box, so now we're right here, which is represented with this and this. Okay, so 1 times 1 is 1. And I just have that x on the top. I don't have any on the side and right here to multiply with it. So it's just going to be that x. And then finally, we want our last one. So this right here, which is going to be represented by this 1 and this 1. Well, 1 times 1 is 1. So I'm just going to leave that 1 right there. Okay, now we have to write them in order from greatest exponent to least. So my greatest exponent, 2x squared, and then remember these two come next, plus 2x plus 1x, and then that last one plus 1. Okay, these two can be combined. So my 2x squared stays 2x squared. 2x plus 1x is a 3x plus 1. And that's all you need to do for that one. You can't simplify that anymore. Number 4, we're going to start out the same. We're going to start with drawing our box. Okay, this first set right here, somehow lost flip pages. Okay, so that first box says x minus 1. Because that has a minus 1, my x goes here, and then this is going to become a negative 1. Okay, now we're looking at our second set, and that says x, and again, it's minus 3, so we have to put that negative in front of that 3. Okay, and then we're going to do it the same as we did the other one. So we're going to start out, we want this box. To get that box, we're going to multiply this times this. Well, x times x is x squared. Okay, now we're going to move over. We want this box. Did it again. We want this box. And to get that box, we're going to take this negative 1 times that x. So negative 1 times x gives me negative 1x. And continuing down, we want this one, bottom left. So I'm going to do the top and the side. So negative 3 times x is going to give me a negative 3x. And finally, this last one, right here, we're going to take negative 1 times negative 3. Remember, a negative and a negative turns into a positive, so you have 3 times 1, which is a positive 3. Okay, now we're going to write them in order from greatest to least. So x squared is my greatest. These two are the same, and I can put them in any order, 3x minus 1x. And then that 3 is a positive 3, so I'm going to say plus 3. I see that these two can be combined. So I have x squared, negative 3 minus 1 is going to give me a bigger negative number. So that's going to be negative 4x. And then I have plus 3 in the end. All right, we're going to try another one here. So I'm going to start with drawing my box. And my first one is going to say 3x. And a 1, it's positive, and then x and a 2. Okay, so the first thing I'm looking at is this right here, and in order to get that, I'm going to multiply the 3 times that. Remember, if there's no number in front, there's a 1, so 3 times 1 is 3, and then I have x times x, which gives me x squared. Once I have that one done, I want to move to this box, and I'm going to do that with this number on the top and this number on the side. 1 times 1 is 1, and then I still have that 1x. Okay, so those ones are done. So now I'm going to move to the bottom left. I'm going to use the top and the side. So I'm starting with those coefficients. 2 times 3 is 6. And then I have x to the first, but no other x's, so I'm just going to leave that x. And finally, I want that last box right here. And to use that last box, I'm going to have the 1 on top and the 2 on the side. Well, 2 times 1 is 2, so I'm going to plop that 2 on there. I'm going to rewrite them in order of greatest to least. And notice that those 2 in the middle, or on either side, are always the ones that we combine. So instead of writing it all out, I could combine some of it on my head. So I know 3x squared comes first, because that's my highest power. And then I have 6x plus 1x. Well, 6 plus 1 is 7, so I can just say 7x. Those x's stay the same. Remember, they have a like term, so we're not going to add anything else. We're just adding the coefficient or the number before the x. And then it's a positive 2. So we skipped one little step and did some of it in our heads for that one. Okay, and do the same with number 6. Let's start with my box. I'm gonna write my first, this one has an x squared and a 3. And then the next on the side, we have 3x and then a positive 5. So there's no negatives in this one. Okay, so if we can remember, if there's no number in front, there's always a 1. So I want this box filled in first, and I'm going to use this one and this one. Okay, so there's no number in front, so I know it's a 1, and there's a little tiny 1 right here. So I'm going to take this 3 times this 1, and I get 3. And then I'm taking my x's. I have 2 right here, and I have 1 right there. So that's going to be x to the 3 now, because we had the 2 and then the 1. Okay, and then I'm going to move on. I'm going to do this box right here. And I'm going to use the 3 and the 3x. Okay, 3 times 3 is 9. And then I just have that 1x. I don't have any other x's but that 1 on the side right here. So I'm just going to label it with that 1x. Okay, I'm going to keep moving along, and now I want to fill this. Whoops, did it again. I want to fill this box in, and I'm going to use this on top and this side. So 5 times that 1 is 5. And then I have x squared. I don't have any other x's over here, so that's just going to be x squared. Okay, and the last step, or the final step, is I want this box right here, and I'm going to take that 3 times that 5. Well, 3 times 5 is 15, so I'm just going to put my 15 in. Okay, now remember, in number 5, we could combine those two middle ones because they both just had an x on it. When I look at these two middle ones, I have 5x squared and 9x. Those two cannot be combined because they don't have the same term. So they don't have the same squared or the same to the first power or to the third power. So those all have to be written separately. So I'm going to start with 3x to the third. That one's going to come first because 3 is my highest power. Plus 5x squared, that's my next highest power, plus 9x, and then that 15 just kind of gets plopped on the end. So you should have to the third, to the second, to the first, and then just your constant, or one that does not have a letter next to it. When you're multiplying a binomial squared, that does not mean that you're just doing this and saying x squared plus 4, right? Because 2 squared would be 4. That's not what that's asking you to do. When you have this 2 on the outside, remember what that 2 means you're doing is writing it 2 times. So we're not going to distribute that 2 like that. Instead, we're going to write your 2 times, or your what's inside your parentheses 2 times. So I have x plus 2, and then I'm going to rewrite it x plus 2. And then you can use your box method to solve. So I have x and a 2, x and a 2. X times x is x squared. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 2 is 4. Start with my highest power, x squared. I can combine the two middle ones, 2x plus 2x is 4x, and plot my last one down, my constant down. See how that's different than what we looked at, the x squared plus 4? This one's x squared plus 4x plus 4. So if you just square them, each individual one, you miss this middle piece, and you can't miss that middle piece. That's why we have to put the two separate parentheses. So let's look at this first one. I have x plus 6 squared. So that means I need x plus 6 times x plus 6. Okay, so now I'm going to make my box. I'm going to have x and a positive 6, x and a positive 6. I'll start with my first one. And I have x times x. That gives me x squared. Move on to this one. I have 6 times x. It's going to give me a 6x. And I have x, oops. Guys, I just keep doing that. I move into this one. I have x times 6, which gives me a 6x. And finally, I have this one right here, and I have my 6 times my 6, which is 36, okay? These two happen to have the same term, right? They both have just an x on it, so I can combine those in my head if I like. So I'm going to start with x squared. 6x plus 6x is 12x, and then plus 36. Okay, same with number 8. Because you have that squared, you're going to take 2x plus 1 and multiply it by 2x plus 1. Okay, so start with your box. And I have 2x right here, and a 1, a positive 1, 2x, and a positive 1. So I want this one, so I'm taking these times these. 2 times 2 is 4. X times x is x squared. I want this one, so I'm going to use the 1 and the 2. 2 times 1 is 2, and I just have that 1x. Move on to our bottom left. I have a 2x and a 1. 2 times 1 is 2, and I just have that 1x. And finally, we're going to move on to our last box, which I have a 1 and a 1. And 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, again, I can see that these two have the same term, right? They both have an x on it. So I'm going to start with 4x squared. 2x plus 2x is 4x plus 1. Okay, we can use word problems with these too. So it says a square has a side length of 2x plus 5. What's the area? Well, remember, area equals length times width. Okay, and if it's a square, we know that squares are the same on all sides. So if this is 2x plus 5, this also is 2x plus 5. Okay, so I can just take those two and do the box method with it. So here's my box. And I want the area, so if this is my length, and this is my width, I'm going to say 2x and a 5, and my width is also 2x and a 5. So I'm going to take my 2 times my 2, and I get 4. X times x is x squared. In this box, I have my 5 and my 2. 2 times 5 is 10. X, and move down to this one. I have 2x times 5. 2 times 5 is 10, and an x. And then finally, I have the bottom, and I have a 5 and a 5. 5 times 5 is 25. So I'm going to start at the top, my highest power. Okay, and I'm going to combine those two in the middle because they both have an x on it. I'm going to start with 4x squared. 10x plus 10x is 20x plus 25. Okay, so this one says calculate the area of the following square. And if you remember, area equals length times width. Okay, so they gave us our length and they gave us our width. Okay, so I'm going to use the square. And I'm going to say x, and because it's a minus 4, put the negative 4 right there, and x and negative 4 right there. So we want this, so I'm going to take x times x. X times x is x squared. Next one is I want this box right here, which is negative 4 times x. So negative 4 times x is negative 4x. I'm going to keep moving around, and now I want this box right here, which I'm going to take the top and the side. So negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And finally, I want this last box, which goes with this top above it and this negative 4 to the left of it, okay? So again, a negative and a negative is a positive. So I know it's going to be a positive number, and 4 times 4 is 16, so I'm just going to plop my 16 in there. I see right away that these two have the same term. They only have one x on them, okay? So I'm going to start with x squared. A negative 4 plus a negative 4, or negative 4 minus 4, is going to give me a negative 8x, and that's a positive 16. That's going to be your final answer, okay? As you know, ask questions if you have them. If not, get to work.